Are you ready for this 12-week journey to begin? Happy New Year. I'm Elisa Maria. I curate Elisa Maria Designs, and out of all the things that I design, one of them is creating clusters for people to do the artist way. This will be my fourth time around doing this with a cluster of people. My first time doing this on YouTube, and I am so happy you're here. I am so excited that today is the day, the new year. Happy New Year to you. I hope you had a wonderful anything that you did yesterday and today also. And yeah, I'm so excited. I was trying to tape this yesterday. I'm actually in my foyer, so if you are one of the people that subscribe to my channel, you know that this is not a normal surrounding for me, but everyone is sleeping. And I was up bright and early doing my morning pages, and I tried to do this yesterday, and I was again in the foyer, and as I was looking out the window and I was admiring my neighbor and what she was, doing to the front of her house, I saw group of people. I'm like, they look familiar. I'm like, oh, they're coming here. I actually know them. So the videotaping stopped, and I just won't, use that clip. I will start anew because it's a new day, and things happen between then and now. So to start the artist way, you need some kind of format of the book, and you need a composition book. Don't need any kind of fancy Jane Austen book and quill pen. Believe me, I have them. And you need a pen, and we're going to get to it. So we're not actually doing week one. The classes will be, today's Monday, okay? Every Monday we will meet up for a check-in of how you're doing. I want to do something where we can meet one-on-one in a cluster and kind of get to know one another. I think the easiest way to do that is probably Zoom. So I have to think of on what platform I'm going to put a Zoom link up where we can meet at a time, or maybe just have something videotaped. It's all very new to me, but I will work it out with your help. If you can give me some feedback and let me know, if you've done anything like this before and how it worked out maybe on a different platform. So what I want you to do this week, so you're going to have a week to complete the information in the book. So there is about, I would say, 20 pages to the introduction to the artist way. And it is Julia, telling her story and how this all came about for her. She wears a lot of hats. She's a writer, a director. She has written plays. She has written poetry. She writes music. She has a very rich background. I've seen her when I lived in New York. I would drop everything, and no matter where she was, I would go to see her. I've seen her at the New York Open Center. I sat right in front of her, like the Madonna had came down from the heavens, and I just sat there and I was in awe of this woman, just in awe of her. And as I read this book, I actually hear it in her voice. It's so beautiful. So my own journey with the artist way was maybe back in 1997. I had two bookstores on the corner of my restaurant. And when I used to go to hide somewhere, I'd run in a bookstore. And every time I went into either bookstore, this book was everywhere. I don't know what was going on in 97 when this book, maybe a little bit later, because I opened my restaurant in 97. I could have been hiding in 97, but maybe it was like a little bit later, maybe before 2000, I'm sure. And this book was everywhere. And I was so drawn to the cover, and I would pick it up, and I would look at it, and I'd be like, I just love things that look like homework. And I would see like week one and what to do, and like, this is your assignment. But I would put it down. It's this word here. I don't want you to get hung up on this word either. I liked to be creative. I created a lot of things always in my life. I've told the story, and for those of you that are new, my dad once said to me, "Do you want to make a nickel?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Go to the corner store and go get me a newspaper." And like, I ran with a quarter in my hand. I gave him the change and he gave me a nickel. And I said, "Well, what's this?" He said, "Well, you made a nickel." I'm like, "No, you were going to teach me how to make a nickel." And he was like, "Elisa, what are you talking about?" I was so craving creativity and wanting to learn how to do things. I actually thought that it was in the newspaper how to make a nickel. And like, while I was running to the corner, I had, ideas in my head of how I was going to be a millionaire because I was going to learn how to make a nickel. Anyway, there wasn't a lot of creativity. In Catholic school, I went to Catholic school, and we didn't have the arts. We had reading, writing, and arithmetic. We did not have, Glee Club or music club, or just, I don't know why, but we just didn't have it. So everywhere I go, in the 2 bookstores, I'm seeing The Artist's Way. I'm picking it up, I'm putting it down, I'm picking it up, I'm putting it down. When I would walk up and down the aisles, because it was like practically on every end cap. It was as soon as you came into the store, it was on every end cap. It was a big, maybe anniversary issue, and it would fall right in front of me. I would pick it up, I would put it back, it would fall. I'd pick it up, I'd put it back, it would fall. It should have just hit me in the head. Eventually I got it when I was at the register and I was paying for my books, and it was at the register too. And as I was paying for the books that I bought, it fell. And the cashier said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I said, "No, just ring it up. I'm taking it with me." And I did. And I put it on my bookshelf. And it stayed there until I closed my restaurant in 2005, maybe 2006. And I moved from Philly to Manhattan. And I had a little patch of park. I lived in Battery Park. I had a little patch of park. And I was like, no matter, I did a lot of things in the time before I opened this book, from the time I bought it. It always came with me. It obviously came to New York. It was one of the things that I took from my home here in Philly and brought with me to New York. And I'm sitting in the park and I'm reading about where she wrote this book. And it was where I worked. And it was just like, when you have like, there's only one other thing that I can relate this to. If you've ever seen Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson in Heartburn, and she's so distraught in her life, and she goes home to her father in Manhattan, and what is it, like Masterpiece Theater comes on, and the story is her story. He's telling like what we're gonna see tonight is the story of, I think her name is Rachel. And Rachel was married to Jack, and Jack is having an affair, and she's eating like a bowl of pasta, and she's like, "Is this for real?" Like art imitating life. So when I had opened this book and I started to read it, and just being in the energy of Manhattan, and so many coincidences as I was reading this book, but you're gonna have the same experience. Things begin to align when you start to do the work. And this is a spiritual path to creativity. So what we're going to do this week is just go over the basic principles of what it is, the foundation of The Artist's Way. And I have done this. So this is not my original book. I'm kind of heartbroken. I actually lent out my original book. I gave this book to so many people. And I gave this to one of my customers who loved Julia Cameron, and of course we became good friends when she came into my cafe, and we both went to see her together when she was at the New York Open Center, and I let her borrow my book, and I never got it back. But we went to see her. We've seen her twice, I think, for The Artist's Way, and also for Walking in This World, which is part of this book. One second. Ugh. I am hooked on this stash tea. So, are you ready? I am here. I see you. And if you've been following me, you know what that little inside little communication is between you and I. And if you want to know, then subscribe and you could be part of the family. So the introduction, I have so many things written and underlined in my book in all different color ink. If you get a pen, I have so many pens. I write, and so a pen is very important to me. I love a big pen, and I love the 4-color Bic, especially for this journey, because you have 4 different colors right at your fingertips. If you want to use one to like highlight something, if you want to use one just to write, if you want to use one that maybe you're noticing is a recurring theme in your writing, you can, maybe circle it in red, maybe put memories in blue. But I just like having those 4 colors. So of course, the introduction, Julia is talking about, what kind of day it is in Manhattan, and she is describing the weather. And again, there's 2 words that I don't want you to get hung up on. One is artist, the other is God. Okay, this is a spiritual journey, and there are many words for God. Or you can use the word God as an acronym for good, orderly direction, if that, or flow, or muse, or goddess, or higher self. Don't get hung up on the wording. And, Julia talks a lot about getting hung up on the word God, but I also, the thing for me why I kept picking the book up and down was the word artist. I, of course, was creative, but I never really thought of myself as an artist. And like, what does the word artist mean to you when you think of it? What's the first image that comes to mind? And yesterday when I was sitting in my foyer and I was looking out at my neighbor, and she was meticulously, she does this all the time. She comes out and she sweeps her pavement and she wipes everything down. Like, this is her pride and joy. This is her canvas. And I know that the outside of her home is just a prelude to what is going on inside. This is her artistic expression. So everyone is an artist. This is for everyone. This is for my neighbor who, from what I know of her, she's a housewife. And this is for those of us who, aspire to be one of the great masters. So don't get hung up on this word. So what I have just in my 20 pages are the things highlighted that have resonated with me that I want to share with you. If you don't have the book right now, and if you are thinking like, well, what is this artist way? Is it for me? Can I? Yes. All of us are creative. We can all become more creative through engaging in God, the great creator, in our process. Creativity is the natural order of life, nothing we need to invent. Put simply, creativity is God's gift to us. Our use of it is our gift back to God. We are intended to be creative, and we are. Everything that you do, the way that I made my tea this morning, what cup I put it in, how I got dressed this morning, all of it is an expression of me, and you are art. So a lot of people, when they do this, well, let me put it to you this way. When I went to the New York Open Center, of course, with all the other devotees to Julia and this book and this way of life, I've been doing this. I bought the book in 97. I didn't crack it open until 2005, and I haven't put it down since. So everyone says the same thing. This book changed my life. I still do my morning pages. Being in New York, meeting a lot of, one of my friends was a director, and another one, I know certain actors. So, they all do the artist way. They've all done it. And when people would ask Julia, like she told this story, what do you do for a living? What do you do? Like it seems to be a question that we get hung up on asking people. So what do you do? And she would say, I teach these creativity workshops. And they would be like, well, how do you teach creativity? And she would explain these basic principles. So these tools, once they're incorporated in your life, they change your life. Everyone says the same thing. This book changed my life. I still do morning pages. I do them every day. If I don't do them, I feel like I've missed something. And that's because when you write in the morning, as soon as you get up and you do your stream of consciousness writing, you are letting go of whatever it is that you're still carrying around with you, maybe from the day before, or maybe something comes up in your writing that you didn't think that you were still holding on to, but you are creating space in your mind, in your body, and you are taking out the trash every day. All the stuff that you're holding on to. And it really does make way for a new, you vibrate differently. You absolutely do. Everything is energy. Everything around us is energy. Everything vibrates at a different energy level. And so you don't want to be down here. You want to be up here. And then that's the way you feel when you let go of the heaviness. You know, throw the sandbags over. You know what I mean? You're just vibrating at a higher level, and you're able, I believe, to see more of the things in your path that you need to collect along the way to get to where you're going. Whereas if you're bogged down and you are, the hamster on the wheel, just going over the same thing over and over again in your mind, a conversation, an incident that happened, things that are emotionally we're holding on to, a heartache, a loss. You can work through all that in here. So another thing that I resonate with is with taking stuff in. So if you've been with me on my channel, you know that I can't have a lot of things around me when I'm diamond painting, not even like a cover minder. And now I've also like taking the border off my painting because it's just taking up too much real estate on my desk, or my eye goes to it and it becomes distracting. I can't have too many things around me. And I had underlined it here was that when she was observing people, she said it wasn't the excessive outflow that damaged artists so much as it was the increased inflow. Without the time and space to metabolize our impressions, we could easily become flooded by too much stimuli. And that's me. And when she was working with these people that were blocked, whether they were writers or painters or people that just wanted to learn how to be more creative in their everyday life, she was like, what can I do to help them work through and kind of balance out what you're taking in and what you're putting out? And so she started, I believe, with the Artist Way, but in this copy, she also has Walking in This World and Finding Water. So in Walking in This World, the task was very simple, and that was to take yourself on a walking meditation. We talk about self-care, we talk about movement, or walking meditation by yourself, not with someone else. You alone with your own voice and your own thoughts, not anybody else talking to you, taking in this extra stimuli, but being alone. Before the Artist Way, her principles are to write your morning pages and to take yourself out on an artist date. They are, and I know now with her new book that she has written, I know she has one called Write to Write, and her new book has the word write in it. It's fairly new, and she added in the walking meditation. But the two basic principles that if you take one away, it's the writing. It has to be the writing. That's where all the magic happens, in the writing. Who was I watching last night? Who was it? Oh my gosh, it was an interview. Oh, was a journalist, and he was saying, I don't know what I think. And I had said this in my previous video, I don't know what I think until I read what I write. And he was saying the same thing. He was saying, my thoughts are so scattered. I have so much coming at me that I have to sit down and write before I make up my mind on anything, because I'm dyslexic and things I don't process. And the bell went off in my head because I'm also dyslexic. And I had a discussion with my husband last night about this. He's like, I know you say all the time you're dyslexic, but what does that really mean? And for me, yes, when I'm doing my diamond painting, and neighbors, when I'm doing my diamond painting and symbols, especially if like you have a line going this way and a line going that way, well, forget it. Like, I just need complete silence, because I will eventually, even if I'm working on the line that's going down towards the right, eventually I will start working into the left. So I have to be really attuned to what I'm doing and quiet, and like I'll turn everything off in the background that I have. I love having my music on, as you all know, but and then also with speaking, I usually, and I always did when I was a yoga teacher, I wrote out all my yoga classes in longhand, because I had a habit. When you write, also you retain. So you will retain, like, and for those of you that are students and in school and in college, and I know everybody wants to do this and click, when you write, you retain 98% of what you write out. So I would write out my classes, because I would retain it. But as I was explaining to my husband last night, it could be a very simple sentence, and like I almost like freeze. Like, I know what it is that I want to write, and I just can't even figure out how to make a C or an S, and like I just stop it. But my mind is still going with the thought of what it is that I want to write. It's so frustrating at times. So but the writing helps. So Julie gets into an introduction. She gets into her own story, which was that she was, I believe, painting. I'm going to look this up. And she felt as though in January of 1978, I stopped drinking. I had never thought drinking made me a writer, but now I suddenly thought not drinking might make me stop. In my mind, drinking and writing went together like, well, scotch and soda. For me, the trick was always getting past the fear and onto the page. I was playing beat the clock, trying to write before the booze closed in like fog and my window of creativity was blocked again. So she went through a 12-step program and she got sober. And then, it's another fear that you can't write because you're not drinking. And now writing when you are sober. And I believe I might have a New Year Brigade coming down the street. I hear a lot of music. We have a parade here in Philly, a Mummers Parade, that they took out of South Philly and they brought it into Center City, where it doesn't belong. It belongs in South Philly. Or it might just be a loud car. But you guys are used to my music in the background. Anyway, so as she was talking about her own journey, she does point out I wish that she would have pointed out, the word artist. And maybe she does. Maybe I'm being too specific. Maybe I wanted her to be as specific as she is with the word God. When the word God is used in these pages, God is a noun. You may substitute the thought good, orderly, direction, or flow. And that's a verb. So, Mary Daly, who is a theologian, said, "Why indeed must God be a noun? Why not a verb, the most active and dynamic of all?" So you can think of it as good orderly flow. What we are talking about is creative energy. God is useful shorthand for many of us, but so is goddess, mind, universe, source, higher power. The point is not what you name it. The point is that you use it. So don't you don't get hung up on the word God. Okay. In short, it doesn't. The theory doesn't matter as much as the practice itself does. And so she goes into a little bit about her creativity workshops in New York. And when I was reading this, I wrote out, how she was saying that she was in a walking meditation, and she was walking along the cobblestone streets of New York, and she was thinking about all the footsteps that had been there before, and was she picking up the energy of the wishes and dreams of those people that came before her and walked those streets. And I just had to stop and write this out because I was in Battery Park City, which is very cryovac away from really New York. I think of Battery Park City as not even being part of New York because it's so, you have to cross the West Side Highway to get into the financial district, and then you're in New York. That's the way I think of it. It's like a little suburb. It's off the Hudson. So when I went to work for an art store on 8th and 12th, I used to walk through the park, Jackson Square, and there's all cobblestones and everything. Reminds me of Philadelphia. And I had the same exact thought. I was crossing the street and thinking, looking at everybody and thinking, how many people have walked these streets, and am I stepping on? I'm stepping on the footprints of the people that came before me for years and years and years, and wishes and dreams and all these emotions that get left behind through what grounds us, our feet to the earth. And when I read that, it was just like, I had so many moments in this book that were just so, for me, mind-blowing for me. So she gets into her own journey. She gets into her drinking. And when she was thinking that the not drinking was going to, kill her creative spirit, she learned to do this writing and just to get out of the way and just show up and write down what I heard. That's another thing that it's not just the stream of consciousness. She asks questions of her writing, and she calls them her marching orders. Like, she might hear my girlfriend Denise was like that. She would hear things in her writing, like there was one girl that my girlfriend was an actress, and she was not getting along with another actress. She didn't really gel with her personality, and my girlfriend Denise was a very true person, true, authentic. And I guess the way that she described this girl, I guess she was just blocked in a way, a mean girl. I guess it's the best way to describe it. And she was doing her writing, and she heard this voice say, "You have to give Maria $100." And she was like, "Hell no, I'm not giving Maria $100." And this voice kept coming up in her writing. "You have to give Maria $100. You need to give Maria $100." So I don't know what the occasion was. It might have been a birthday or something. And she put $100 in an envelope and gave it to her. This person that she wasn't crazy about. And, it's not like my girlfriend had, $100 just to give away. And the girl came to her and she's like, "Denise, I can't believe what a gift you gave me. So generous. And I have to let you know that I'm moving." And I was like $100 short for something that she needed, maybe a moving truck or something. And, I was able to get it because of your gift. And I know that it had something to do with her moving. I don't remember the exact story, but she was like, do you believe it? Like, she's leaving. And I helped her on her way. So you don't think that those voices, you got to give Maria $100 and, generosity out of self-interest. So the spiritual electricity, the basic principles, and she goes into a 10-step basic principles of what she wants you to take in. That creativity is the natural order of life. Principle 1, life is energy, of course. Everything around us is energy. Number 2, there is an underlying indwelling creative force infusing all life, including ourselves, which just reminds me of like the quantum field. Okay. When we open ourselves up to creativity, we open ourselves up to the Creator's creativity within us and our lives. And you can tap into that with your morning pages. So I think that's the magic of morning pages, when you are just you're taking out the trash. And things may not make sense when you're writing. You might be writing and thinking, I don't know what to write about. I don't like this. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I have better thing to do than to sit here and try and fill up 3 pages in longhand, front and back, because it's not just morning pages, it's 3 pages, longhand, no abbreviation. So you write can, not can't, because you want to slow things down. Our minds are very quick. Everything around us is moving very quick. We want to slow down. And you write them front and back, 3 pages. And you might start out thinking, I don't know what the heck I'm going to write. And you might be writing 5, 6, 7 pages. Because once you let go of all that negativity that you are thinking and walking around with, that quick it turns positive. That quick the floodgates open. That quick you get down to the meat and the bone of the work. And that's where the creativity begins to flow, that energy. Number 4, we are ourselves creations, and we in turn are meant to continue creativity by being creative ourselves. Number 5, creativity is God's gift to us. It's our gift back. 6, the refusal to be creative is self-will and is counter to our true nature. A refusal to be creative. I'm sure our refusal to be creative. Okay. An example would be the child that grows up wanting to be an artist, but the parents want him to be a doctor. And so he becomes a doctor, but he still longs to be an artist. But, maybe doesn't even pick up a paint brush or a pen to be creative, because maybe it's too painful. So that I think would be a refusal to be creative, to not be who you are born to be, meant to be. 7, when we open ourselves to exploring our creativity, we open ourselves to God, good orderly direction. Yep, when you open yourself up to the creative energy around you that is vibrating all around you. This is vibrating at a lower level than I am, but it still vibrates. It's still energy. When you open yourself up to it, yes, you open yourself up to bigger things, more synchronicity. As we open our creative channel to the Creator, many gentle but powerful changes can be expected. That goes without saying. I mean, I think that was the biggest excitement for me in the beginning, my first journal, all these things that were happening as I wrote, just the simple act of taking a pen and sitting down and writing what was on my mind, and seeing the things that were happening, the doors that were opening for me, Um, and then the excitement, it never turned into, maybe I think it does in a way, but it's still excitement. I don't know what to expect, but I know that it's going to be good. That's what I would say. It's safe to open ourselves up to greater and greater creativity. That could be scary. It could be. When your creativity gets bigger and bigger and broader, you could be, challenging yourself if you're ready for it, if you can handle it. Our creative dreams and yearnings come from a divine source. As we move toward our dreams, we move toward our divinity. So they are the 10 basic principles that you will read. As you work with the tools in this book, as you undertake the weekly task, many changes will be set in motion. Chief among these changes will be the triggering of synchronicity. We change and the universe furthers and expands that change. It's like leaping and a net will appear. Creative recovery. And of course, what I underlined in here is that there's no being done when it comes to being artistic. You're never done. It just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing. Working with this process, Julia writes, I see a certain amount of defiance and giddiness in the first few weeks. The entry stage is followed closely by explosive anger in the course's midsection. The anger is followed by grief, the alternating waves of resistance and hope. The peaks and valleys phase of growth becomes a series of expansions and contractions, a birthing process in which students experience intense elation and defensive skepticism. I would absolutely agree with that. Yes, in the beginning it's giddy and you're elated because you're taking that baby step, and then you get deeper into the work, deeper into things that you're holding on to, deeper. I talked about this in one of my other videos. Things from childhood. And I've resigned myself to the fact that things that have happened in our childhood. I was a loner kid, so did I ever feel sadness because I was a loner kid? No. And I don't think like, even as a mother, I don't think I ever said to my son, what makes you sad? Because he's a kid. They bounce back, they're resilient, but they don't really, this is just my opinion in my own life. I bounced back because I was a kid and I was always looking for the next thing to do. Didn't mean that I processed what did make me sad. So nobody wants to be sad, especially a kid. So I think that, yeah, we do probably carry this into adulthood. It could have been something very minor, like that I was a loner kid and I grew up with like 50 kids on my street, and like I just would like kind of sit back and watch them and like observe what they were doing, and I was never really interested in what they were doing. I was the kid that was always writing and wanted to be on my roller skates and wanted to feel this freedom of being on my skates and this aliveness, and just I would spin around in circles in the schoolyard for hours, and I would be, the faster I went or the slower that I went on my roller skates, I would be thinking of these stories in my head, or who I wished I was, or characters in books that I read, and what their life was like and what it would have been like to be them. So I that's the kind of kid that I was. But I think I kind of maybe I processed sadness in the writing that I was doing as a kid in the stories, but maybe I didn't process everything. So I think that you do these little maybe roadblocks that we have are from our childhood. So she goes into self-care, which is what we do every Sunday. going into all the excuses that you might have for not taking on creativity, telling yourself it's too late, that you don't have enough money, that it's just your ego, that that your dreams don't matter, that you should be more sensible, that your family and friends, there's a whole chapter on that, that your family and friends would, think that you're crazy. And there's a lot of psychology to family and friends not supporting your dreams, and it's in this book. And that, creativity is a luxury. And yeah, I thought that. I thought that when people were artists, I'm like, how do you survive? Like, you must be like, your parents must be rich, and can't survive being an artist. So, and then the basic tools, morning pages, I explained that to you, and the artist date, pivotal tools in creativity. Morning pages. A lasting creative awakening requires the consistent use of both. So, whatever the morning pages, an artist date is when you take yourself out once a week and you do something that you want to do without anybody else. Just you. Again, just you. My big artist date, it could be the same one. I mean, it's probably would be great to expand my horizons a little bit, but I'm after all these years, I'm trying to, it's kind of hard for me to, think of an artist date. But Julia, I had just watched an interview of hers, and her artist date is that she walks to a local pet store, and where there's this big fat bunny that she's able to pick up and hold and pet and talk to. And that's her artist date. That's what she does to fill the well of creativity. For me, I've, gone to restaurants. I've taken one big thing that gave me a lot of fear was going to the movies by myself. So I've gone to the movies not only did I go to the movies, I went to the movies in Manhattan where you had to go up 12, an escalator to the middle of this building. It was in like one of the World Trade Centers buildings, I believe, but it was in Battery Park. And, the screen was huge. Oh my God. And nobody was in the movie theater because I went in the morning. And so I was by myself in this movie theater on like the 12th floor in some high rise in Manhattan. It was crazy. But I did it. And I actually had my book, my journal out with me because there's a lot of light. I was by myself and I was writing down all the things that were going through my mind about this artist date that I took myself out on. And I learned a lot about myself. I've gone to restaurants, I've gone to museums, I've gone to different parks, I've walked through probably my favorite thing to do. I'm born and raised in Philly, but I have not been through every neighborhood. And I've taken myself to the historic parts of Philadelphia, and a camera was always in my hand. So I went from holding a Canon camera, a PowerShot, to having a really great camera on an iPhone, to now a Galaxy, which I think is superior to the iPhone. And so that's my thing. Tons of pictures and videos in my phone. That's my artist date. And there's always something to be captured. And the reason why that you take yourself out on this date is to, again, fill the well, to have your senses come alive, is the way that I would explain it. That when you are somewhere and you are alone and just you and your thoughts, what you're looking at, any of the aromas that are going on, what you're hearing, if you're in a restaurant, what you're tasting, it could be, your senses become so fine-tuned, and you feel that well. And it's very interesting where it will show up in your creativity. I recently put, maybe in my last video, I put up the pictures that I had when I had my own yoga studio, but it wasn't just a yoga studio, it was for yoga and meditative arts. And I taught primarily yin and restorative yoga and meditative art. I taught the Artist Way, I taught Zentangle. And I was doing this one Zentangle by myself, And it was just stream of consciousness. I was in the flow. I didn't hear anybody else around me. You know, when you're just, time is passing and you don't even realize how much time has gone by. And then I looked back. I was doing this in a journal, and I looked back and I'm like, what is this? This wasn't a Zentangle that I learned. It wasn't a pattern that I was trying to learn. It was just my own free hand, and what I was, a repetitive pattern that I was, have a squirrel running by, a repetitive pattern that was just flowing out of me. And then after, when I looked at it and I said, oh my God, this is the butterfly farm. You know, I didn't exactly draw a monarch, because in Zentangle you draw patterns, but the shapes that I were drawing were absolutely part of a butterfly wing and a monarch design. And it's just like, this is why you take yourself out on this date. These are the things that, whether you're consciously or unconsciously aware, are downloading into your brain. So that's probably one of my coolest effects from going on an artist date and having it show up in my artwork. So morning pages, taking yourself out on an artist date, a little bit more about the morning pages. All that angry, whiny, petty stuff that you write down in the morning stands between you and your creativity. Absolutely. Worrying about the job, the laundry, the funny knock in the car, the weird look in your lover's eye. This stuff eddies through our subconscious and muddles our days. Get it on the page. Take the trash out. That's what I say. Take the trash back out. Nobody is allowed to read your morning pages except you. And you shouldn't even read them yourself for the first 8 weeks or so. And I agree with that. I don't ever read my pages. Just write 3 pages and stick them into an envelope, or write 3 pages in a spiral notebook and don't leaf back through. Just write 3 pages and write 3 more pages the next day. So, now she says, make this a rule. I have this underlined. Always remember that your censor's negative opinions are not the truth. So, if you are writing your morning pages, and the morning pages are a primary tool of recovery. As artists, we tend to criticize ourselves. There's that little voice in the head that is saying things that what we're doing isn't right. We are victims of our own internalized perfectionist, a nasty internal and eternal critic, the censor, who resides in our left brain and keeps up a constant stream of subversive remarks that are often disguised as the truth. The censor says wonderful things like, you call that writing? What a joke. You can't even punctuate. If you haven't done it by now, you never will. You can't even spell. What makes you think you can be creative? And so on and so on and so on and so on. The other thing is that the morning pages are not high art. You're not writing a novel. You're just dumping out the contents. You're siphoning off what's laying on top of your brain so that you can get into your brain and get into the juicy stuff. More about the censor brain. I do believe that your pages are a way of meditating, especially when, and I see this as a teacher, you know, students come in and they sit on their mat and they're fidgeting a little bit. And I think that that's like the beginning with your morning pages, where you're like, I don't know what to write. Oh, just write what's on your mind. And like, I'm actually writing that out. Just write what's on your mind. Nothing's on my mind. Well, if you weren't doing it, if you weren't writing, what would you be doing? I'd be worrying about this. And then it starts to come. And then you start to settle into it. So I see this even with my students that I would teach yoga to. They fidget and then they settle in. And then you begin to settle in. And then you get into that meditative state of mind where then all of a sudden your hand is flowing. So yes, the pages are also like a meditation, much like our diamond painting, right? You can certainly get into a flow where time just passes. And especially like me, I'm by myself during the day and I have my music on, and you know, I'll set a timer for 20 minutes to just sit here and maybe do a little bit of diamond painting and then get up and do something else, unless I'm really in a flow, and then I will continue to work if I have the time, but I usually maybe 20 minutes at a time. What exactly is an artist date? An artist date is a block of time, perhaps 2 hours weekly, especially set aside and committed to nurturing your creative consciousness, your inner artist. In its most primary form, the artist date is an excursion, a play date that you pre-plan and defend against all interlopers. You do not take anyone on this artist date but you and your inner artist. That's it. That means no lovers, friends, spouses, children, no people tagging along at any time. So, I'm just looking to see if there was anything else about that, but I think she hit it home. I hear Foofy trying to come in the door. There he is, slowly, like a ghost. There he is. What's up? What's up? Filling the well. We talked about that. And there's a little contract for you to sign that you understand that you are undertaking an intensive guided encounter with your creativity, that you're going to commit to a 12-week course, that you'll commit to the reading and the morning pages and the artist date, and that you'll do your tasks. You have a week to do them, so it's not like, you know, I used to read this on a Sunday. My lesson, I would read it on a Sunday, and I would give myself the entire week to do whatever it is that was required. So they're your basic principles. That is the foundation. That's a little bit about the author, Julia Cameron, and how the Artist Way came about, a little bit about my own journey. And then we check in on, well, Sunday I'm doing Self-Care Sunday. So I might roll in a check-in with how you're doing with the Artist Way into the Self-Care Sunday, because then Monday coming up is going to be recovering a sense of safety. It's a good one. It has to do with shadow artists. It's very interesting. I think week 1 and week 2 are two of my juiciest and favorite chapters in the book. So this book, don't let it scare you. There's 2 other books in here. It's The Artist Way, Walking in This World and Finding Water. Julie wanted to put all these 3 books together when she did this commemorative printing of The Artist Way. There's also an Artist Way workbook that you can get if you don't want to do your morning pages in a notebook. It's not just a workbook to write your morning pages. It's also a recap of the chapter. So if you need a little, study guide along with your writing. And I'm happy you're here. And here we are, day one. And I was thinking, I was watching another artist that I love last night, Jane Davenport. And I've taken a lot of her classes in watercolor and acrylics and sketching. And she's just been on a creative, she's just blowing up YouTube with all new products that she has. And last night she has these new paint palettes. I have all her paint palettes, and now she went and put them in one big case. But she called it Euphoria. She loves naming things, and she's very good. She's very witty with the naming of her products. Euphoria. And she said, I am claiming 2024 as the year of color. I'm loving 2024. The first day of the year adds up to the number 8, my favorite number. And the whole year adds up to the number 8, my favorite number. And I thought, well, what am I claiming 2024 as? Because I've done the Artist Way so many times. And every time it's different. And this year it just feels like magic. This year, it just feels like everything is going to explode into some accumulation of everything that I have been working on for so long, that it's just all going to come together. And maybe it's on Elisa Maria Designs. I'm still trying to figure out how to get a platform to be able to have an open discussion with you guys for the Artist Way. So if anybody has any ideas, I do have a Facebook page, Elisa Maria Designs. I could do a Facebook Live there, but a lot of people are not on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I'm just not. It's there. I have no interest. And that's what happens when you get on a trajectory in your life of where you want to go and what you want to do. I can't, like, again, it's the stimulus. If I go to Facebook just to like put something on my page, it's like all that stuff coming at you, and it distracts me, and I get sucked into this vortex that I don't want to be in, because I never leave there feeling good about myself. So I stay away from it. Instagram, there's no platform there. I just started Buy Me a Coffee because I was not interested in Patreon. I just wasn't. I didn't like their policies. They were too intrusive on your end too. That if you wanted to become a patron of mine, you got to become a member of theirs, and they need all your information. I don't like that. But Buy Me a Coffee was more simple and less invasive. And I don't know if they have a platform. I think they might just have a way of putting links up for classes that you want to teach. So I will look into that a little bit more, kind of set it up, but then, holidays and wanting to take on this new venture with all of you. It's been a lot. So goodbye from me and the Foofs. I'm going to see what's going on in New York City. Is there a parade? No, there's no parade in New York. No. I'll see what's going on in my own hometown. Here's Foofy. Foof, say goodbye. Say goodbye. You're so handsome. He's totally freaked out from all the fireworks last night. They were, I live on a residential street, kind of looks like Brooklyn. But I'll tell you, for just, everyday residents, my neighbors, they put on a firework display. It looked like Australia here last night. It was beautiful. Anyway, Foof is a little jumpy today, but I think he'll be okay. I'm going to spend some time with him. He's actually looking at every little thing that I'm doing with, such intensity and pursuit. Like he's still freaked out. I could see it on his face. Where are you, Foof? You okay? That's you, Daddy. That's you. It's not another cat. Happy New Year, guys. Create the world you want to live in. I will see you for diamond painting during the week. Enjoy the day. Bye.